name's Jen McCarroll, and I'm the Music Outreach Officer with Music and Film in Motion, MFM, which is Northern Ontario's Music Industry Association, which means we support the music industry in Northern Ontario in a variety of ways, including professional development events such as webinars like this or other panels, workshops, and networking events. Maybe we'll start by introducing our panelists today. We're talking about music videos. So kind of from an artist perspective, kind of learning what it's like to make a music video, what it's like to work with a director, work with a crew, and how to do it with limited resources, understanding that that's pretty much the conditions we're working in these days. So I'll start to my right. Sean, if you want to give a few.
All right. Hi, I don't need to wave. Hi.
You can totally wave.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Hi, I'm Sean Cosmerly. I'm the founder of Here Kitty Kitty Productions. It is essentially like a music video production company. I'm like a one-man team. I like produce, direct, cinematography, and edit on. I've done over like 36 videos now, and the numbers are growing. I'm based now in Toronto, but I'm from here originally in Sudbury. I started in 2012. I also play in too many bands.
So many bands.
And I love you.
Prove it.
Right.
Thanks, Sean. Mina, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, so my name's Mina Sewell-Mancuso, and I'm a filmmaker from and based in Toronto, where I also went to film school. And now I work in the film industry in various capacities, making music videos, but also writing, directing, editing movies, TV, commercials, kind of the works. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks a lot. I think it's obvious now why we have these folks in the room. A lot of varied experience. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about, I know you went to film school as well, Sean.
Yeah.
So how did music videos become what you primarily do? And in your case, Mina, what kind of role does it play in your overall filmmaking career?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. Music videos were amazing coming out of film school because they were something that people wanted and that could be done quickly and relatively inexpensively. So I'd come out of this very rigid school system that tells you there's one way to properly make a movie. And then, I had friends who wanted music videos and it was just sort of like, well, let's put this together and see what happens. And so it was very freeing in that way.
Cool.
It's kind of similar where the way that my attention span works, I always found that music videos were the best because it's a very quick turnaround time. And also just music's sort of the only thing that's important to me. So I always wanted to find some way to cross the bridge between, because I had a love of video making since I was a kid, so just find a way to kind of bridge it together. It's just cool. I like meeting new bands all the time. You make new friends every day, and I just didn't like being on film sets personally. I find it's too conventional. I like how you get to kind of make your own rules on music video shoots. It's sort of it feels way more like calm. There's no negativity in the air and stuff. Not that there is on film sets, but
it can be, I guess. Yeah. So in your, having worked on a bunch of music videos, why do you think it's such a great tool for artists?
From my experience also as a musician, I find that music video tools are it's like one of the essential marketing tools for an artist, because it's you get to showcase your image. It's essentially you get to sell your music. You get to sell yourself, because I feel like a lot of people these days, it's not just about having good songs, it's about having a complete package, right?
Yeah.
So it's about, you want to make sure it kind of goes, I know you guys talked about social media, was it last week?
Yeah.
But just it's a whole thing. So being social media present, having a good image on camera, I feel like it just kind of makes you this whole package sort of thing.
Yeah, cool.
It's also so hard to grab people's attention these days. I know everyone says that, but it's very true. Yeah. And to hold somebody's attention. So even if you're hearing a song on the radio or something, It's not the same as presenting somebody with a visual that's going to make them wonder what's going to happen for the next 3 to 5 minutes. Because if you have a good story, that's always going to keep people's attention.
Oh, that's interesting too. And I guess you mentioned attention, but also probably retention.
Mhm.
If they're just hearing a song passively, it's a lot different than if they're watching something and they're kind of
Totally.
involved more.
It
with other
also
senses.
is kind of cool because I find that you get to, it's like an extending arm on your artistic voice, like for like the artist. You get to find, it's like you already created the art, which is the music, but now you have another way of just keeping that train rolling in regards to you get to like share your like a visual vision as well.
Yeah. Do you find that working with artists that artistic vision or even just concepts in general, do you find they often come from the artist, or is it something you bring to the table, or is it a collaboration?
It's like, well, I don't know about you.
I would say maybe 50-50. It really depends. Yeah.
Same here. I don't find one or the other any better or worse. My personal favorite is when someone will have like a rough idea and then you can kind of blossom it into something bigger. So then it's like, it's like it's your parents at that point. You're not just kind of like you're both making something together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess not a necessarily fully fledged thing either, because then there are things that probably as a director you have to enlighten the artist to in terms of the process. When working with artists sometimes who have these ideas, have you ever had to kind of scale them back or kind of give them a reality check in terms of what's possible?
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And be anecdotal if you like. I mean, we don't have to.
I can't think of anything really specific, but somebody, could always say like something like, this song is about like a robot uprising. So can we have a video that's about the robot uprising? And you just think, oh, well, we don't have,
How do you feel about claymation?
Stuff like that. Well, but then it's so fun to go from there and to see, well, how can we do that idea with the resources that we have?
Okay.
Totally. I've had a lot of like we have $500. Can you make us a video like this? And they'll send me like a Drake video or something. And it's like, well, that was like 2 million, but I mean, but like middle ground, let's take that 500 and make it look like 3,000 or something.
Yeah.
I've lately also had the opposite though, which is kind of cool, where people will be like, we probably can't even pull this off. And you're like, you're wrong. We totally could actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's all about, I guess perception versus reality is just like a big miscommunication. A lot of times some things feel really simple and they're impossible to get, and vice versa. Sometimes things seem so far out of reach, but they're actually within arm's grab.
Cool. So when you're working with an artist then, and for there to be that collaboration, what does that process look like? How, maybe in terms of a timeline, how long does it take? Like when should an artist reach out if you're thinking working backwards from a video release?
Yeah, I don't know about you.
I would say as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because, and especially if you're working with a label or something and they always have a timeline in mind, and, you need the time to put everything together, get your crew, get your locations, and that can always get bogged down.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'd say like 3 months would, like if you want like concrete, I find I can make it work in 3 months ahead of time. You give like a couple weeks so you can figure your concept and everything, get your pre-production going, and then a little bit of buffer room for editing. And you need like a month usually at least for premiere, I find, if you want to get like that's what I find. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder when people don't understand the editing process, because it's what I do like as a job primarily. And they think that you can just throw the footage into a computer and it'll be done in a couple days. But it's such a nuanced process, and you can make a video so much better if you have a good editor.
Yeah, there's a creative process even just with editing, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's its own thing, but also as well, if you give the editor a short time span to edit it, you're anticipating that you're not going to have any notes, and then it's essentially like same with like when you're recording music. It's like you don't just use the first mix, right? You would use like a couple mixes in. Editing is the exact same thing,
Okay, cool, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned locations. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. What kind of steps are needed when you want to use any particular location, whether it be, especially if it's public or private?
I tend to do guerrilla shoots, so I started to show up and ask for forgiveness, not for permission, which I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
If you have the budget and like the time to plan, then by all means plan and get a permit. But
yeah, I've done it both ways. So I've gotten like permits for city parks, shot on like beaches and stuff like that, and but for that you need insurance, and you need permits aren't super expensive on their own, but you kind of have to prove that you have your act together. And I've also done the guerrilla route, which is easier if you're just doing like a handheld thing. Your camera's not very big, but if you're
full crew,
then you kind of need to get a permit and or you just shoot in somebody's house or wherever you have the permission to not be on a public street.
There's always an alternative.
Yeah. Or you find somewhere out in the woods where there's not going to be any cops.
Yeah. That's probably a bit harder in Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah, but if you can drive out of the city, then you're good.
Yeah, nice.
Small towns are actually great for guerrilla shooting, I find.
Yeah,
I've never had a problem in any small towns, like Sudbury especially.
Nice.
You can get away with a lot. Just have a good attitude. Just be polite.
Be polite. That's perfect.
Yeah, always be polite. That's kind of the key.
Lead in with "I'm sorry." I know I'm sorry. And then sometimes I'll let you keep going.
That's great. So you kind of mentioned too, different sizes of crews. What would you say is like the bare bones minimum that an artist should think about or like plan to be able to pay for when they're shooting video?
Well, I made a video with 3 people, including the artist. Okay. So the artist was in front of the camera. I was shooting it and directing it, and then we had a friend to just kind of help like carry stuff and do anything else that needed an extra set of hands for.
Totally. I feel like if it all depends on if you're hiring someone or if an artist wants to make a video themselves, because realistically you only need one person for like if the artist it's about what the idea is. So it's like one person could film trees, for instance, but as long as the idea is captivating, then that's enough for a video. However, I think it's good to have like a couple hands on deck, like just what like Nina's saying, someone to carry the stuff. I think I always operate alone. I kind of like to do without crews just because I feel like it's way easier to navigate for timeline wise and stuff. And I'm just like a very snappy person, so I like to. That's not the right word, is it?
Snap. I like it.
I like to snap between the next shots, next steps, and stuff. But more hands on deck, usually they probably get a better quality picture.
I mean, your friends could do the kind of the rest of the stuff and sort of be your PAs, your production assistants.
Like your bandmates, that's I like when people have low budgets videos for me. I'll usually find ways to mates be the PAs and have them do the runaround and stuff, because then they're already they're happy to help because they're getting the product, and then and also like they feel involved in the process as well. Yeah, and it is cool to be involved in the process and stuff, like from a band's perspective.
Cool. What are your considerations when you're doing kind of maybe a performance shoot, like when you're actually shooting the artist performing the song? How do you go about setting the stage for that, or are there any little like tips and tricks you have for making it look really authentic?
Okay, so the biggest one I've seen for a lot of new artists is when they lip sync, they don't actually sing the words. And I always tell them, like, if you're screaming in the song, you should scream like right now on camera, because like I've done edits where people will just lip sync and not actually project their voice, and it looks fake, like it looks phony, it doesn't look authentic. I'm personally a big fan of having them actually sometimes look into the camera, because I find that says more than like any cool frame shot, because a lot of times people will watch videos because they want to connect to the artist. I find that's when I watch in their eyes for a second, you feel like you have a moment with them or something. But that's all aesthetic.
Yeah.
and everything. One thing I see a lot of amateur filmmakers do when they shoot bands is they always film the guitar, but they never film the actual performer. And it's like, I don't really care what they're playing. I just want to see them, you know?
Yeah, and some people, especially like drummers, best drum faces. You want to get
totally
right in, right in on that.
Get as close as you can without making anyone super uncomfortable.
Totally, yeah.
But that's it. Yeah, trying to get the artist, because they can be used to performing on stage, but not as soon as you put a camera in front of people, they can kind of freeze up. So just making that environment like comfortable for them and getting ways to make them feel kind of more performative and comfortable.
Totally. I find my priority on set usually is actually focused on making sure the artist is comfortable, because a good performer is a good video. You know, I'll have it like if we're taking too long on a lighting setup and it's starting to frustrate people, I'll can the lighting setup, because it's more about them getting you want the performer, like it's about the talent.
Right. If you've got the perfect lighting but they're not.
It's like good gear can only go so far, but good talent can take a bad video and elevate it. I also, especially for performance videos, one thing I like to always try to do is still find a way to slip a narrative in there. And I don't mean like a story like the classic 90s, like band playing, like, you know, couple having a fight, like cut to that. I just find it's like, let's say you're like, okay, we're going to play in front of a bunch of lamps. How can we take that and make that the lamps aspect grow or something? So can we add more to it to make it just so like you're not seeing the same shots for 3 minutes? Is there some way to like make like some kind of like arc, like artistic arc with it, you know, like save all your big shots for the climatic ending or something?
Yeah. For an example of that, go see the new Casper Skulls video shot by Sean Cosmerly. Thank you. But,
thank you for the
do you have anything to add to that? Like,
no, I totally agree.
Yeah, cool. So, you know, we talked a bit about how that crew can literally be the artist and the director. So when an artist is seeking a director for a project, what should they be thinking of and what should they be making sure of when it comes to that compatibility?
Well,
go ahead.
Okay. I just like, you want to make sure you're hiring the best, like the closest voice to your own, and not just someone who has the best gear, you know, because you could like, I actually wanted to bring this up. So we both shot at the X exhibition.
Yeah, we did. I saw yours.
Yeah. And they're completely different. They're like, so it's all about like, because you could just be like, I want to shoot a video at like this carnival, but who you decide to hire completely like changes it. Like yours is very artistic and very it had a bit of experimental aspects to which I thought was really cool. Mine was just like pretty straightforward. It was like I'm just going for like a pop thing, and it's just like, you know, do you want like it's all like what do you want from, like, how do you want to best represent your vision or something?
Yeah, and if you're an artist talking to a director, I find that it's good to have somebody who has a clear vision, but who's also adaptable. Somebody who's not going to be super authoritarian about the way that they run a set, because, you know, it's the musician's music, it's their vision too. And I always like it when an artist kind of acts as the producer. They sort of let the director direct and sort of run the set and everything, but they're the ones who maybe come in with the big picture or who have kind of an idea that needs to be carried out, and then it's the director's specific vision, but you could work in tandem.
Yeah, that's great. I completely agree with that. That's a very good way of phrasing it. That's great.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk a bit more about those roles and how the artist as producer, what's expected of an artist, and how can they best work within that framework too, and respect the director's role and the rest of the crew.
Well, I think just understanding, like, every member has to just kind of understand their role and when they're overstepping. So it would be, as the artist, I feel it's like you want to communicate to the director of the crew as best as you can what your what your vision is, and then let the director kind of figure out your vision and then develop their own in a way that just like kind of like give them give them the paint colors and let them kind of paint the picture. And then it's always good to check in and make sure that each vision's being respected. But also, a lot of times I feel people will shut directors down before they get a chance to fully express themselves because they're worried that it's starting to deviate away from what they had thought. Personally, I don't know.
Yeah, it's best to have all of those conversations before you get on set.
Yeah, totally.
Make sure you're as on the same page as possible, and then kind of respecting not a hierarchy, but just sort of like letting the director do their thing on set, not talking over them, not stepping in. Like if you have actors involved, not directing the actors, letting the director do that. But if you have a note, pull the director aside, tell them what you're thinking, and then you can kind of go from there.
Right, let them make that call.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end.
Absolutely. As far as like if you're on the performing side, I think it's good to express your comfortability. If the director is having you do something you're uncomfortable with, I think it's really important to vocalize that, because at the very least you'll get a conversation going. Is it like, are you uncomfortable because it goes against your morals, or is it just because you're shy? And usually you'll learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Do that too, which is kind of cool. Or whatever.
Sounds like there might be an anecdote there.
I had a few actors who say I'm going to look stupid if I do this, and then I'll like, let's just do this. You always be like, can we try it? I was just like, can we try it? Same like when you're in a studio and you're like, I don't know if there should be a tambourine here. Like, well, we can try it and we can take it out. And I'll film it and I'll show them a clip. And like, oh, I look awesome actually. And it's like a self-esteem thing.
Cool.
Whereas then sometimes I did a video shoot once where they wanted to have some of the actors dress in outfits that I don't think were super appropriate, and the actors were uncomfortable with that. And that's the thing where like, okay, I respect, because there's no, I don't think it's an artistic thing at that point. I think it's like, you just got to like respect people's boundaries and stuff in that regard.
Yeah, cool. I think I like this part of the conversation about just that comfort level and making sure everyone is kind of comfortable. So do you have any tricks or like little things that you do to make sure to kind of set the tone a little bit, or that artists can do also on their end for the crew that they're kind of welcoming into their space?
If I'm working with a crew, I try to talk to the crew as little as possible and just be with the talent the whole time. And just develop your own, when you have a friend, you have your own kind of set of like, you have your own language between them. Just find a way to like find your own language between them. Just like, you want to like find a way to make them your friend for the next like day or two that you're shooting. I don't know what do you think?
Just always trying to de-escalate. I find it's a situation that can make a lot of people really anxious and really uncomfortable when you have cameras and expensive gear, or there's a time pressure or something, and you just remind everyone you're just making a video. It's not life or death. It's like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you always have options. So like what you were saying about trying stuff out, just say like, we can try it this way. Nobody ever has to see it. And if it's great, it's great. And if it's not, then,
you can watch me delete it later.
I find also artists, like any creative type, we do like some form of validation. Just meaning like, if like, let them know they're doing a good job. If they're doing a good job, I feel like that you can find people's shoulders go down the second you're like, that was great, because now they're not second guessing themselves. And if it's a pivotal moment, like if you're trying to get like the one performance shot and they're not nailing it, I find if you do a couple, eventually they learn the rhythms and they're not just like trying to like do the motions. Yeah, exactly. They're actually just like living in the moment and stuff. But yeah, I feel like just like try and be mindful of the talent,
Yeah, that's cool. So when it comes to finding resources to be able to actually produce a music video, obviously we talked about how certain things can get expensive in certain locations or insurance or whatever. What are some ways that artists, if they really have this vision that kind of takes a few dollars, do you know of any resources either funding or otherwise that an artist can have access to. We had a bit of a chat earlier about this.
Yeah, RIP much fast.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the most popular ones is gone now, but
I'm not super experienced in funding. I don't know if you have a lot of.
Yeah, honestly, I've had some bands who have like factor money, or they have money from their label, or they have saved a bunch from a tour or something like that, because they know that they want a video to kind of showcase themselves.
Ahead.
But those are kind of the only options that I know of currently in terms of like hard funding.
Yeah, you're right with Factor. If anyone's with Factor, general rated artists do have access to the artist development program. So that's one way post much fact that independent artists can get their hands on some funding. But I do believe that might be the only thing available to artists in Ontario at this time, unfortunately.
Yeah. You're saying resources just for actually getting projects going and stuff.
Right, but then, what are some little tips that you have for that?
I think your biggest resource is your network. So, your friend has a cool video, just ask them, like especially if you're scouting for directors, just like ask around. Everyone has musician friends in some way. Like every artist usually has at least a couple of friends with videos. So just like kind of check in, see how their work does. Also, like, I don't know, a quick Google, be like Toronto videographer. I feel like that, or something, Sudbury videographer. Something will come up. And then if you want to make it yourself, there's a lot of tools too. Like you could teach yourself basic filmmaking, I think, on the internet now. There's like so many YouTube.
Phones have ridiculously amazing cameras.
Yeah, like honestly, like I feel like cameras aren't even a big deal as much. Like if you get a good lighting setup, like if you can light a scene good, you can kind of shoot it on like even on an iPhone, it could probably look pretty okay. And you can get a lighting kit at Canadian Tire for like $50 to get those clamp lights and 200-watt light bulbs. That's what I
hot tips here.
Yeah, totally. Like if I'm being completely honest, I used to do that for like the first maybe 2 or 3 years of my film career, and it's passable. Like as long as it's passable, And if like, I think the biggest thing that is just find ideas that would work then with your budget. As far as resources go, you have places like MFM. They have a lot of help. They can help guide you in the right direction too, because I'm sure you guys have an arsenal of videographers who need work. I don't know, do you find any like?
I mean, I always try to think of what do I have access to, and who are my most talented friends that I can exploit. And I don't mean just like in the filmmaking world. I mean, like, do you have a friend who's a really talented like artist or who makes beautiful clothing or something? And it's how do you take like, say, one little idea like that and blow it up into a video and kind of make that the center of the thing? Because if you have one resource that no one else has, then everyone is going to be like, oh, that's so cool. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
You have your oh my gosh moment, which is like when I'm making videos, I find any video just needs to have one oh my gosh moment. That's like the gooey center, like the white part of the Oreo or whatever. Where you're like, this is why I'm here.
That's great. And I like the idea too of maybe it's not the location so much as it is the wardrobe or something like that that makes that moment. Have you ever worked with like a business? Like, have you ever just gone to a business and said like, listen, I can't pay you? Totally. Like, whether it's their product that you can kind of use and like in a contra sort of deal. Like, when have you ever kind of done something like that?
When I was starting off, I would try and do commercials for small local businesses. Like there was a record store, Cosmic Days record store. I did a commercial for them once, and this was just like, I understand you can't pay me. Can I use this, and then in exchange, could I maybe at some point use your location as like a place to shoot when I would need it?
Cool. Yeah. So it's like investing in that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also do find a lot of like. A lot of businesses, if you find a way to give them a little bit of exposure, they'll be complacent letting you shoot there. be like, I will, be like, I'll provide your logo at the end of the video if you give us access to, letting us shoot in your store when you're closed or something. And I've had that work a few times.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. One video for Hooded Fang, we just went to their favorite dim sum restaurant during off-peak hours. So it was like nobody's eating dim sum at 3 in the afternoon, and we were just sort of like, we are going to buy so much food. We're gonna have this little camera here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's a great video too.
Thanks. Great.
One thing I want to track back to the resources too. If you are worried about camera stuff, the biggest thing is you can rent cameras, and even there are film co-ops.
Yeah, Lyft in Toronto is good, and even places like that will have video suites. If you don't have your own Premiere or Avid set up, you can edit there as well.
Totally. Which they have like everything they need. They usually have like a light kit. And they'll have like cameras you can rent, and they'll have, like you said, like a good editing suite and stuff.
And take advantage of your local libraries as well.
Totally.
Yeah. That's actually where we got this microphone here.
Nice.
Sudbury Library. Thank you. Great. So maybe we can go into, before we take some questions, which I encourage people to shoot our way. Any other just like tips? Maybe anecdotes, things you wish you would have known earlier on that you kind of learned the hard way, or
one thing from a filmmaker's perspective is, I wish I'd known to cut my shot list in like half, because I used to always try and compensate by getting like 15 million angles on something, and it's like, I think I was just, because the idea I didn't have a good idea, so I was just trying to like stretch whatever little idea I had. And it's actually like let things breathe. I see a lot of people always do really like fast cuts and stuff, but I like to let your scenes breathe and let kind of the people kind of direct it a little bit and stuff as well. Cool. Like the viewers with their eyes.
Okay, gotcha.
But that said, it's great that you're shot listing, because I find the best way to go is do all of the prep that you possibly can ahead of time. And then on the day, you can kind of go with the flow a bit more. You can decide, okay, this shot works, this shot doesn't, no worries, we're just not going to get it. And then you're not freaking out, wondering if you have enough coverage and if the story is still going to work and that kind of thing.
Invest in setting up a good Google Calendar or something. And like, I use Google Sheets, and I always share that with the band, just for any form of like, if we're brainstorming, then that's a good way that everyone can kind of put their ideas in one cohesive place, or like, calendar so everyone's on the same page for when we're shooting, when deadlines are due, and et cetera. Just like get really good at communicating with all essential parties. Sometimes it's good to have the label, like have a good communication with the label too. I've been yelled at before because the band didn't tell me they needed the video today. And that was a weird phone call to have. To be screaming like, "Where's my video?" And you're like, "Right? I don't know." And just, especially people starting out, be okay with not being very good at the beginning. If you're like, it took me like, I feel like this is the first year where I don't feel like I completely suck, and that's okay. Like, you have to kind of suck to get better, and just be like comfortable and like learn from your mistakes. I feel like start doing low, what's the right word? Like projects that if you were to screw up, it wouldn't matter as much. Like
low risk.
Low risk. There you go.
Yeah.
Like ones that only you would see. Like you don't have to release every video. Like if you're starting out as a filmmaker, just make something and use your siblings as an actor, and just like look at it and be like, cool, if this was a legitimate project, what would I do differently or something?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think my first video was super ambitious, and it was a logistical nightmare, and then you end up with it and you're like, oh, well, this isn't what I wanted at all.
Yeah.
But it's still a learning process, and the artist was still happy with it, I think.
Yeah.
And
honestly, like, it's great that you're like, it's really good to be, especially when you start off, like the ambition is like what drives you, right?
Yeah, but like you said, just knowing that you're going to do everything you can, but you're only going to get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
As an artist, I would actually tell artists to maybe consider investing in some acting lessons, or just like hang out in a mirror for like a couple hours and just like really practice your lip syncing and practicing your movements. When I write music, I write songs in the mirror, even just to make sure that it looks cool or whatever. But
doesn't surprise me at all.
nice. But it's just like, you know, you want to sell your best self to the camera in some regards. So like, it doesn't have to be like, you get to decide what that means to you. Like, I'm not saying like be a pop star, but like find out what your idea of yourself is, and then find how can I best like showcase that on camera. You know, like if you're an indie rock band and you don't want to be like movement, just figure out like how can I, you know, like showcase who I am to a camera that works for me, because the camera can do a lot, but it also like a lot of it is also on the performer.
Right. That's a great tip.
Thanks.
The practicing in the mirror thing just made me remember that if you're an artist and you want that cool lip syncing in slow-mo look, which is pretty popular or was, and it just like looks awesome, right? Because you're moving in slow motion, but you're lip syncing in sync to the song. Just know that you have to do that in double time. You have to do it twice as fast. And you need to practice doing that without laughing.
Totally.
No kidding.
Totally. I had a shoot 2 weeks ago where we couldn't use any of the footage because
just didn't quite.
Yeah, but first it looked cool. Slow-mo is always cool. Here's the thing. I heard I read this somewhere. For videographers, get your B-roll in slow-mo. Sometimes usually, like I see a lot in rap videos and stuff. It always looks cool. Get your main stuff normal speed, and then because it's really good for filler. If you need a cutaway or something, get a good some good slow-mo shots. I love slow-mo. I have a bit of like I've been told to tone it down a lot. It always looks really cool. Figure out what your voice is too, as like an artist or as like as a filmmaker. Like, what is your style? You know, like what watch a bunch of music videos, see what you like, see like how would you do that if you were in that.
And how do you want to be represented?
Yeah, exactly.
It always helps when an artist can say, even if they don't have a filmic language, they can say, oh well, I want it to look like Blade Runner, or I want it to feel like this, and then you have an idea of what they mean.
Totally. When I cold call bands, because how I get a lot of my gigs is like it's half networking and half I'll just actually go on Facebook and I'll look at like a Toronto music venue and I'll be like, okay, these are all the bands that are playing that have EP releases. They all need EPs. I'll be like, I'll listen to their music. I'll message them, say, hey, I like your music. Here's my work. Do you want to do something? And then if it works out and I have no idea who they are as people, I ask them to send me some music videos they like, just as a way of being like, I'm not going to try and recreate this. I just want to get the tone of like where your interest lies and stuff. And it's good also, like, just it's always good to know like what you like, right? Like as an artist, be like, if you had to choose, like, what are the things you gravitate towards? Because it's just a good communication between the filmmaker and the artist.
Yeah, and that's a neat point too, because you guys mentioned that you both used the same location in a video, but they look completely different. So it's making sure that you're getting that tone that you're looking for. Do you have, I asked you this yesterday, but do you have a favorite video that you've done for whatever reason, and why?
I had a hard time answering it.
I know. It's a
and I thought about it some more, and I still don't know if I have one. But I have bands that I really like working with who are always really fun, and we have that good like rapport.
Yeah.
If I had to pick, I did a video with they're called Sam Coffee and the Iron Lungs, and the video is my mom is the focus.
Oh yes, I love that one.
It was really cute. So the label messaged me. They didn't even realize I did a video for Sam Coffee before. They're like, hey, do you want to try doing a video for this band? The song's called Judy. That's my mom's name. And within within 3 seconds, like, okay, here's the idea. I already have it. I'll figure it out. And they just like took my word on it. They're like, okay, that sounds like it could work. Let's try it out. and I just got to direct my mom for a day, and I got to introduce her to one of my favorite bands, and it was lovely. And then she got to play guitar on stage with them, and I'm shooting there with like tears in my eyes because I'm like, it's just because I'm really proud of her, because it's like cool. She's been supportive of me my whole life, and now here she is on the other side of it, doing this for me. Also, she was so good to work with, because I remember I called her, I was like, hey, do you want to be in a music video? And she's like, okay, what do I need to do? It wasn't even like, or she just said, okay, I'm down. When do I need to do it? She didn't even be like, what do you need me to do? It could have been anything. Like, I could have had her covered in bees or something. But,
thankfully, it was just a denim vest.
Just a vest. Yeah. I told her just to look like Joan Jett.
Amazing. She delivered.
Yeah, she crushed it. Props to Judy, definitely.
That's great. Okay, we do have a question from Peachy842, which I love. So question is, how common is it for there to be a separate editor for a project? So this person's interested in editing more so than the whole process of filmmaking. So that's a good question for you, actually, because...
Yeah, so I edit all of my own music videos just because it's easier. I'm on set, so I already know what the footage looks like, and then it's a one-stop shop kind
it's
of
also
a thing.
Your forte.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would say if somebody's interested in editing music videos or just in general, it's try to forge a relationship with a director or multiple directors, preferably. And then if you have any work to show them your work. And then that way, when they have a project, they can call you up and say, hey, do you want to edit this for me?
Totally. I've edited some projects that I haven't shot. And I find it's also a cool learning. It was a weird learning curve at the beginning, because you're used to just being your own being your own boss in that regard and tastemaker. But yeah, just find a good network. I find through that I just knew a producer. Someone helped me produce a music video, and then one of the videos they produced, they said we need an editor, and they forwarded it to me. It's super reasonable. Just Kijiji. Just I see a lot of ads for people say like to do freelance work there, but it's always worth a shot, you know?
Okay, that's great, because their follow-up question is in terms of finding work. So I'm going to assume as an editor that looking at a list of artists and contacting that was very helpful. Are there any other kind of, I guess, methods to try to find work when you're not maybe that connected?
Get good at networking and go to film festivals, or go to shows and just talk to the artists and stuff. I think getting good at networking is is one of our most powerful tools, at least I use. Despite my awkward body language, I feel like I'm actually pretty good at networking. I think it's because I ooze empathy.
Whatever works.
Whatever. But and also just Craigslist, Kijiji. There are Facebook groups exclusively dedicated towards people who are looking for jobs. I think there's one called I need a producer. Is that?
That one's great.
Yeah.
Totally. It's producer, and they've expanded it, so it's a bunch of other titles too. But they post all kinds of things.
Yeah. Get a really good demo reel. You know that's
that's
a really easy way to. It's make it nice and snappy too. You know me, the snap man.
That's what we call you.
Hello. But just make it nice and quick, and it's a really, really easy way to showcase your work that it will keep people's attention going. Summarize your best shots or whatever, because a lot of times people like helping people out, and people want to have an arsenal, because if they need an editor last minute, then they're like, oh, I worked with someone, yada yada, or someone worked with someone. It's a big old family of being helpful. Also, if you have an opportunity where you could get someone else a job, get them a job too, because then they might pay you back later on down the line or something.
That's a great,
And I mean, it's hard to just do music videos. That's not really, it's not the 80s anymore. But I got my start editing in commercials, and commercials are great because there's such a fast turnover, and they're always needing new people. So I got my start as an assistant editor at a house, like an editing house that just does commercials. And then that way you meet a lot of people, you have a lot of experience very quickly, and it's high pressure environment, but you come out of it with so many skills and so much experience on a number of different kinds of projects.
Cool. And contacts you come out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Because there is that crossover between commercials and music videos.
I do find that it's essentially like things where you don't need to it's more focused on that they don't focus on the audio a lot of times. Like, well, I don't know with commercials. I haven't done too many commercials.
Yeah, I mean, audio is important, but it is that same idea of it's like one quick idea, and how do we communicate that efficiently? And
right, because there is a message.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end. Yeah. I want to kind of maybe elaborate on the demo reel idea. If someone is a filmmaker, when it comes to putting together demo reels as an editor, do you need to get permission to use those? Because you don't really own.
I couldn't hurt.
Or do you like? Is it just about asking?
Oh, you mean if you're an editor and you're using projects that you worked on, but were directed by somebody else? If it's just for your own personal like editor's demo reel and you have a copy of it, you're good to go. Like you're not, it's not a commercial thing. You're not like selling it. And as long as you're not claiming to have done work that you didn't do, then you're fine. Yeah.
Usually like make note of it in your reel. And also like,
say who directed the piece.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Right.
Credit them.
If you're not posting it on YouTube, you can make it like unlisted and just send it privately. There's no problem.
Yeah, true.
Because then you can use, music that you might not be allowed to use otherwise.
Yeah.
As far as royalties and everything.
Cool.
Copyright.
Okay, all right. We'll take that out in post.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for tuning in today, and thanks to Mina and Sean.
Thanks.
We'll see you next week.